So we're looking at the outlook for 2025, the projections and what may most likely happen, especially as it concerns Nigerians living in diaspora and the investments that we should be expecting going forward. We have with us live in the studio to talk about this Professor Uchenna Ekwo is the President Center for the Media and Peace Initiatives. Good to have you. Good morning.
Good morning and welcome, Prof.
Thank you so much.
Right. Can you give us, from your perspective, an overview of what you see 2025 to be, especially as it concerns investments in Nigeria and Nigerians also looking to leverage on the opportunities that Nigeria actually have?
Well, all I just can say is that, looking at the impact of the diaspora in economic development, in exchanging knowledge and skills and all that, it's be more profound, because as we are also experiencing the innovation in the technology sector, some of these things will foster more engagement of the diaspora, with their homelands. So I envisage a situation where there will still, because there's going to be an increase in that, in migration, obviously. It's not just in Nigeria, it's across the world. As a matter of fact, even the Organization for Economic Development and Cooperation, talks about how there is going to be an increase in migration around the world. So more than about 7 million people will move from their homelands to other countries. So Nigeria is also part of that, and I just do hope that the government will also find a way of engaging the diaspora more effectively to enhance the investment you're talking about. On my personal level, just shortly before I came back, I had a meeting with the Consul General of Nigeria in New York. So he gave me an assignment to help to really convene a forum to discuss investment potentials in Nigeria. Because prior to this moment, the former Consul General had initiated a similar initiative, because then I remember his name again, but I think they reassigned him to he's an ambassador somewhere in what was this, Fidel Castro's country,
Cuba?
Cuba, yeah. So, and because a lot of people, unfortunately, do not know that the role of the Consul General is to also emphasize business development in their native countries.
Right.
But what seems to be happening is that a lot of people don't even know who to meet, the appropriate agency, appropriate individuals to contact for them to invest in Nigeria. So that's a big problem. And also, in our embassies, I can also, because these are real things, I'm not just saying it in theory. You call the embassy, you can't get a response. And that's not healthy. So I would wish that, as a matter of fact, I also intend to discuss with Abi Kedabere, anytime I run into him in New York. Because the challenge actually is that some of us are able to do our own little bit to coordinate, reach out to our contacts, but sometimes they don't have the appropriate mechanism or the appropriate contact to read that. Sometimes they complain about this fraud here and there because they run into the wrong hands. So government has to really do more, in doing that. And I think the current Consul General, Jida Abubakar, probably is open to such conversation. He also told me about how he's also dealing with some Latin American countries in that respect. So the point I'm making is that some of us who have the interest of our native countries at heart, especially in terms of investment in different ways, even, it's not just a matter of business per se, even transfer of knowledge and skills.
All right.
We're also committed to that, because there are some of these intangible investments that we don't really see. So it's not when I come to invest, I build an industry here that you think I'm contributing. On a personal level, I'm also engaged even in development of the education sector here. You may not notice that. But I'm also trying to help some of them expand their horizon. Even exchange programs. Some faculty members here, I'm helping them to have some faculty research exchange between some faculty members here and over there. Same thing, student exchange programs. I also assist some students get admission and things like that, you know. So those are the little things we can do as, you know, people who realize that there are a lot of potential here that are not harnessed because of certain problems. So there are many things we can talk about in this area, but personally, I do this on a regular basis. I'm in the permanent observer of the African Union in New York. Incidentally, Miss Carey, she's also a Nigerian. You know, she's also helping out because these are contacts I do have that I try to bring even some other African countries occasionally to have a forum to discuss some of these potentials. But the basic problem, which I think they really have to address, is to make sure that any potential investor should have the right information of where to go and what to do without falling into the wrong hands. Because sometimes when they fall into the wrong, they just label all of us as fraudulent people. So that's a problem.
Right. There's something the Central Bank of Nigeria is currently doing, you know, is aiming to increase remittance inflow, you know, to $1 billion, yes, monthly. And is considering also issuing a diaspora bond in USA this year, 2025. But my question is, how do you perceive that impact of increased remittance? Of course, the bond, the diaspora bond, how do you perceive it and the impact it's going to have on Nigeria's economic development this year, particularly?
Across the years, the greatest impact of the diaspora has been this remittances you're talking about. I think as the last count, it was like almost $25 billion a year. That's huge, right? But to what extent this policy initiative will change the trend is difficult to say right now in terms of, I don't have the data to know how it's going to work. But I think it's also a good thing because I'm one of those people also, when we talk about diaspora strategies, you know, there are some policy initiatives that can enhance diaspora engagement and diaspora participation in development of the country. So perhaps, I'm sure they must have thought it through, you know, but if the bond is done in such a way, because obviously, like, if I don't have $20 to send across to Nigeria, I don't have it, right? If there's nothing Central Bank will do for me to earn more money in the US to send here, okay? So, but any policy initiative that can enhance diaspora engagement economically, that would be huge. As a matter of fact, sometime last year, I invited Wale Adem, who was the Deputy Treasury Secretary. He's actually from Nigeria originally, right, in the US. So, you know, but we didn't quite have that conversation event because he for some reason, he wrote to say he couldn't make it. That particular event was to also look at how people like that can inspire, you know, other diaspora, Nigerian diaspora, to realize that at everywhere you are, you can play a role. Such a person in such a strategic position of policy making can encourage, can do a lot of things, you know, in terms of supporting some policy initiatives or doing some little things that you may not think they matter, but they do matter.
Okay.
So, the central bank you're talking about, the policy they are doing is, you know, I'm sure it's good. It's one of those things I talk about, diaspora strategies. And when I talk about diaspora strategies, I'm looking at every policy initiative that can enhance the engagement of the diaspora to ensure that, you know, they also participate in the development of the country. Because at the end of the day, the world is networked, all right? Networking is such a way that I used to remember when I was in school in the 80s, one of the days when they taught me about Marshall McLuhan's global village theory. I didn't quite understand that. You know, I was wondering how can that happen, but we're living it right here. Across everywhere, like I live here now, the next day I'm in the US, right? So it never used to happen, okay? So you can call directly or send money around and so on and so forth. So there's also, one thing I also want to suggest, I think I've said this in one other forum. If there is a way, like the central bank or the government can also play hardball with some of these money, bureau de change, all these transfer agencies, right?
Right.
So, because they make a lot of money from all of us, like commission. You know, you pay commission for you to send money. So, if they can find a way of getting some little money out of that, their commission, well, they're doing business here and they're not paying anything. Nobody does business these days without, you guys pay tax in this country, in this state, right? So everyone who is making money here should be paying some little stuff. If I send you $100, let's say through Western Union, I pay $8 or $10 commission, they just take the entire money. So this government should be able to tell them, give us 50 cents out of that. That's not too much. Give us 50 cents out of that, then our son is
doing outside.
Making money for our son, and they also doing business. They should pay some little sum, and they put that money in an escrow account. Imagine what it's going to be at the end of the year. Some place where I've made this suggestion, they say, Africa is corrupt, this and that. But I don't just think that because people are corrupt, we should leave certain things open, So let somebody try something like that. So along with this policy you mentioned about central bank, they can also do something about that. And at the end of the year, they say this is the money realized from remittances. And they use it to do something. Because, first of all, that money they're taking, I'm not losing, and that big company is not losing much because it's little, it's so minute. But when it comes, in aggregate term, that's a huge sum of money. So we should be more strategic in our planning and more focused, looking ahead, and try to diversify a lot of income streams. You see, because when I send money to my family, apart from the fact that it boosts the spending culture, the economy is benefiting because they have to use it. But other than that, the society don't benefit so much. But I want a situation where a little pie of that thing can also impact lives generally, to repair roads, do a couple of other things, even support this organization or other media establishments. There is also another policy initiative that I also want to talk about that concerns the media. All these Google, all these guys, they're making money from all of us. Each time you watch stuff on YouTube, you're making money for someone, right? Or all this we're doing, right? And the media industry here is dying. Is there no way these guys can have a legislation that can enforce these tech companies to support the media development? Other countries have done. Australia did it. Australia, as at the last count, raised more than $200 million on that. And they need to share to media houses to enhance their performance. And this, like Facebook, they're too rich. This doesn't mean anything to them. But it has to take some policy initiatives. Okay. Because even when I had a meeting with, last time I came for this thing here, I spoke with the government officials here, the speaker and all that. Yeah, they don't have that power to have that general policy, initiative. But if Congress here can pass such a law, it will become effective rather than thinking about how to ban people from using Twitter and all that.
But then, what specific sectors do you think are promising when it comes to investment opportunities for the diasporans?
Honestly, I think the tech sector, is key. Tope, the wealthiest diaspora Nigerian in the US, is in the tech sector, right? So, and I also think that that's where I see opportunities in Nigeria. We need to enhance even all this broadband and even increase the internet penetration. As developed as US is, they're still trying to reach out to the rural areas with internet. The last almost $1 trillion infrastructure bill or law now, of course, now act, right, under Biden. A huge chunk of it is on internet access, expanding broadband and all that. So we should do something like that because that's the future. I've been telling a lot of people around that if you are left out in the technology age, you're finished. There's just nothing you can do. Think about it today. When you cannot do anything except you have technology. There's a course I teach is called communication technology. I tell my students, have you ever tried one day? You can try it. Can you stay one day without any touch with technology? Experiment on it.
Nearly impossible.
Thank you very much. You detox yourself, right? You discover you can't survive. That's the way we have become so reliant on technology. Everyone, there are many places, the opportunity is there. The gap is there. Even in rural area, a lot of people need to also learn, there are a lot of people working in the secretariat right here now who are still behind. You know, they need to retool themselves, because you can stay here and get a job in the US with technology. You know that, right?
Yes. Right.
You don't have to travel. There's this website called Fiverr.com. You know, it's a kind of freelance platform. You can stay here. I've given jobs to a lot of people, some in Indonesia, some in France, any part of the world. In fact, I was surprised one day I was dealing with one, I needed to do stuff with my Apple computer. So, and I called Apple. The person they referred me to was in Lagos. I was like, I had the voice. I said, this sounds like Nigerian. He said, yeah. I said, where are you right now? Because sometimes you don't know where they are. So she told me she was in Lagos. I was happy to, I asked, she studied in some polytechnic in Ogun State. And I was impressed, you know? So the world is one village. So what I'm trying to say, in essence, going back to your question, is any investment, the major investment that we should consider is on technology. Because that's the future. Is it in healthcare? Every sector, you know. So biomedical engineering, all those things are where I think the future lies, because that's the nexus. It connects everything. And of course, that technology will not flourish if we don't deal with electricity. Mm-hmm. Because it can also be frustrating. I was in the village over the Christmas. They took the light, and we didn't realize that there was no fuel on the generator. Everything packed up. Nobody could talk to anybody. So it can be very frustrating, especially when you're used to this kind of thing. So such situations should really be addressed. So
what are the challenges? And now that you mentioned power sector, are there other challenges that you see that hinder some of these diaspora investments?
Yes, I think, of course, naturally, there are a lot of challenges. And again, let me also say something. There's something I also intend to discuss at Abike Dabiri anytime I meet with her, you know, in terms of how, well, the last time I met at Dabiri was in South Africa, you know, when I addressed the Pan-African Parliament. But some of these issues I'm talking about, I've not really said then, because I would have really discussed this extensively. There has to be a way to also have effective communication with the diaspora. Her office, I'm not too sure they do, but they may be making contact, but there has to be a comprehensive list of about 500,000 Nigerians are in the US. Do they have a database of all these names? If they do, just like every university does, well, except maybe in Nigeria, but you know, the alumni, the alumnus of any particular university really help to develop. So the entire alumni, they have a list. If you are birthday, they send you a birthday wish or something, because they know you're there. They're thinking about you. So they should have a similar database where they reach out to some of these diaspora Nigerians. Because some of them, let's face it, many of them are facing severe challenges of their own. So you have to survive before you think about sending money, right? One of the days I was with the Consul General, the previous one, I didn't even realize that those guys do a lot of jobs. It's like some people who are in jail, he's talking to them, you know, some Nigerians and all that. So that person in jail, how do you think the person can even contribute? So what I'm trying to say is that there has to be a way for us to understand that these people are also having their own issues. You know, that's one thing. Because I believe that someone you meet when the person is in difficulty, if ultimately that person triumphs, will remember that you helped that person. So there has to be that communication. So, but other areas or other challenges could also be for lack of trust. You know, there is a very big credibility challenge. I've had so many stories, you guys might even tell better than I do, of someone who wants to invest in Nigeria. He's sending money, and whatever he's said to be doing is not a real thing. You know, to the point that even your siblings, your relatives can also, you know, have that kind of problem, whereby you send money, you come back, it's not what he said they're doing that thing for you, you know. Right. So things can be very disheartening, you know. So let's say I want to invest in, okay, like I am trying to set up a radio station, right? So, and I'm sending messages, you know, I'm always here. So you'd be surprised you come, it's not what you think that they're telling you that you're seen on the ground. Even to go and pursue some, so, some of those things can really be annoying. So I don't know how to deal with that. But it's not always. There are people who are genuine, who are great. But the preponderance of that kind of behavior is something that I think can also, dilute the desire of people to contribute. And most importantly, there's so much policy somersaults in this country. There's some kind of inconsistency. So if I should know that there's a certain law that says you have to do it this way, that should encourage me to invest. Not a situation where I have to pay money through all these illegal methods. It can also be discouraging, because sometimes I go to a place and I want to make some payment. They won't give you a receipt, and I say, "Can I have receipt?" And they say they don't give you a receipt. What kind of thing is that? So how do I account for the money? So it's really, so there has to be that element of transparency and building trust. So that trust deficit is a big challenge, and the system somehow, you go and pay for a piece of land. They say you don't pay, you pay government. So why would that happen? So those are the kind of things that I think can really make someone to be angry. Yeah.
Well, let's look at the immigration of skilled professionals. I understand that a lot of people still want to go. You can't stop people who want to go to maybe to further education or to look for other development out there. But then again, this JAPA has lead to concerns about brain drain. My question is, how or what strategies do you think should be implemented to mitigate the adverse effects of brain drain?
Quite frankly, in the past, I was one of those people who thought brain drain was a bad thing, right? But over time, I've come to realize it's not that as bad as we think it is. There is this theorist, David Cooperage, talks about appreciative inquiry. I don't know if you've heard about that. So the takeaway with that thing is, emphasizing of what works rather than what doesn't work. Because the tendency is for always to criticize, say this is bad, and all that. So, and it has not led anywhere, right? So why don't you emphasize those ones that work, that ultimately you can now do a curve and start addressing those ones that don't work. So why I said that is this: brain drain is not as bad as some of us thought it is, because what is happening today, especially with technology, there's brain circulation, there's brain networking, right? What do I mean by that? The skilled professionals who are leaving somehow are coming back to help.
Okay.
I left this country, but still I'm still interested in helping. Like I just said a minute ago, that I'm also supporting some faculty. Like you are in university, I can help you to come and do sabbatical for 1 year. So that cross-pollination of knowledge, you come and stay 1 year, provide some experience to some other foreigners. You also learn, you come back and use those experiences you acquired to also help your own people. So that's not a bad thing, all right? Some students, can also come and do some professional, maybe 6 months, right? Let's say internship. And I put it, let's say you studied law, I connected to a law firm, and you are doing an internship for 6 months and you come back. It will also help you, right? It's not like those days traveling was difficult. So when we were here, I also did internship myself. I can assure you that when I did internship in Daily Star back in the day, that helped me. Up to today, I still benefit from that. That said, I understand and I started hearing this Japa thing. I think it's Yoruba expression. I don't know what that means. But all I know is that there used to be in the 80s what they call Andrew one commot or something. Yeah, something. There used to be advert those on NTA. So it's still the same thing. So the tendency is that a lot of people want to leave because of the environment. But Nigerians are so resilient. Listen, I've traveled around the world. I cannot tell you that Nigerians are so talented all over the world. There's no place they go, you will notice them. So what that tells me is that we don't have the enabling environment here, okay, to really flourish. So there are a lot of talents that are here. I was discussing with a team of Israelis, innovation hub in Abuja. So And I realized what they're doing. They're just bringing some, artisan. Like I suggested to them, Prof. Zibe, my friend, who is the proprietor of Uturi University, Uturi University. Yeah. So he's also working with them. He's actually the brain behind that. Tony Blinken came to Abuja to commission that. So I promised to, but I've not done that, to go to coal camp, because I realized what they're doing is something. Some of these guys, artisans in coal camp, can also come and commercialize their prototypes and become recognized. Because some of them are doing some of these obscure things, they are struggling and all that. But if someone can really give them a push, that would be awesome. So there are a lot of people on the streets here whose talents are underutilized. So because nobody is paying attention. So such a person, if he has an opportunity, just run away. Let me tell you something. Do you know in New York, all these people who fix stuff, they are very rich guys. They make a lot of money. All these builders, all these electricians and plumbers, they make a lot of money. None of them earns anything less than $65 an hour. Some of them earn $80, $200, if you belong to a union. So they don't need, even in America, most of them don't go to university. After high school, that's it. They just take off. So that's what I think we can replicate here to reduce the exodus. Because it's not even brighter, because there are a lot of people, honestly, I'm sorry to say, there are a lot of people who would leave this country and go over there and are suffering, and there's no future. Right. I won't forget that experience I had in South Africa, where I went to a restaurant, my driver and the whatever were leading me, and so it took me to, I wanted to eat Nigerian food. As I was getting to my car, some young men clustered around me. I don't know how they recognize who is Igbo and all. They started speaking Igbo to me, and were begging me money. I was surprised. So, and meanwhile, they are not. I asked the chauffeur. They told me that's what they do. Can you imagine? Some of them are there, and I'm saying to myself, somebody will say, "This guy my son is in South Africa." So, whereas this guy could have been here and more productive. Right. So the idea of just going out is not the thing. You have to have a plan, because you may just come there and you regret why did I even come here.
Yeah, but again, the plan sometimes can change while you are at it, because I've seen people who have a plan to go outside, and then when they arrive, the plan just shatters, and then something else happens. Sometimes even your professional course or your professional experience is not even accepted, except it is a practical thing. Or you tell them you can do this, and then you do, and they see, they say, okay, it seems this person is good enough. Some of them don't even accept our university degrees, when you travel abroad. So even those who are graduates, have experience, when they go out, they just rather resort to menial jobs to survive, and hope for the best.
No, definitely. Life is all about struggle. It's not as if anybody, there's nothing that, you have to pay your dues. And even talking about this education thing, I've helped some people, find their way. First of all, you have to, like your certificate, obviously they don't recognize, it doesn't mean anything to them, because they know that a lot of guys here do a lot of shenanigans, right? So you have to submit your transcript to any of the accredited, like there's World Education Service is one of the popular ones. There are a lot of other agencies that assess degrees, not just for Nigerians, but all over the world. So when they evaluate your degree to the US standard, then you can take off from there. Then any institution can now recognize that. Even when you're looking for a job or you're going to read for higher education, that's what you'll be submitting, because they will have used your own evaluate to come to their own standard. So if you don't know about that, then you'll be screwed. You think you just come and submit your certificate from here. Nobody is going to recognize that. So those are the kind of issues. But even at that, like you said, people can just, abandon like whatever study they had in the past and veer towards another career. I've seen a lot of guys. Even there's one guy I know who also, some of us were professionals here. He just got into nursing thing, And obviously, when he passed, and of course, Nigerians are intelligent people, and you just fall in line. So it's just to determine if you have a good guidance. That's also helps, because sometimes what I discover that may have affected a lot of people adversely over there is when you don't have someone to direct you appropriately, and you go the wrong way. And won't be tired. If you just make a mistake, it's in the system, you can't change it. Yeah.
True. All right. I mean, this talk about diaspora voting has been up and about for a long time. Do you think Nigeria is ripe for diaspora voting?
Honestly, I forgot to mention that. It's good you brought it up. It's only Nigeria that doesn't have that, quite frankly. And something, yeah. So, and it's annoying, you know. Like if I was here, like let's say in November 5th this year, I could have just gone to the embassy to vote, right, in the US. And other countries, even Ghana. When I tell some other African countries, they marvel at it. Really, I don't know whatever is stopping them from having that, and that also is also kind of is dispiriting, to be honest. Like we're talking about investment, those things can also make you to say, you know, to hell with Nigeria, you know. So that's not good because you need to participate in your governance. So if I have to invest in Nigeria, why is it that I cannot have a say in the kind of government that monitors or implements policies that guide my investment? You see the connection. So I'm happy you brought it because I forgot to mention that actually. It is a very critical issue that this government can also break that barrier and stop it. Because I don't know what they're afraid of. As a matter of fact, the diaspora voting will be the most credible.
Absolutely.
Because it will be, nobody, you can't fake it. It's just like, you come to the consulate in Nigeria, I mean in Abuja, sorry, in New York, Nigeria consulate. You file in, you have your number, everything, nobody can read that one. So, but I guess it's just some of this untoward behavior among some of our politicians that perhaps is making them not to, you know, recognize. But I don't see why. What are you going to lose? Okay, in the Second Republic, when they debated this idea of dual citizenship, right? It was easy. They easily passed it because it's going to benefit some of their, you know, some of them and their people, you know. So why can you not just implement? What's wrong about it? Okay, let's say we are 1 million people in Nigerians in the US, for example, and 1 million people will vote in one direction. What about millions of people here? Just do your campaign and all that. So the thing is very annoying because when we do have elections and we try to, and some of them of late, you know, some of them came to New York trying to, you know, raise funds and all that. Yeah, the people who are contributing to it will not even participate. Because I don't have a voter's card in this country, right? Because I'm not here. So why can I not vote there? And you can't doubt my nationality because I have my Nigerian passport. So I have no idea why.
So what mechanism do you think, you know, should be implemented to enhance political participation of those Nigerians in diaspora?
The key to political participation is when you participate in elections. It's not just about we stay there and we're just, you know, talking and saying, you know, come and see how, you know, Nigerians, they like discussing politics. During the election, a lot of theories come about how this PDP, this, that. I hear all those stuff, right? But as far as I'm concerned, they're all crap because it doesn't translate into anything because you're not participating. I want a decision why I should be able to vote to say this is, and I'm happy. Okay, like this past election, yeah, all of us cast our votes. Okay, whatever is the outcome, you say I played my part. If you don't like the outcome, that's okay. But the important is that you did your own part. So I want a situation where Nigerians should be given an opportunity all over the world, not just in the US, all over the world. There are many Nigerians and all our embassies, and that will also make some of these embassies to be more effective. Because to be honest with you, some of them, you know, they need to work harder than they are doing. They are doing their job, right? But they have some of these will add to their plate. Some of their assignment they should be doing, and it's a worthy cause. It's something all other countries are doing. Our own cannot be different.
Considering your analysis, you know, in analysis of the media's role in economic narrative, so I want to understand how can the economic contribution of Nigerians in diaspora, you know, be optimized for national development, and what policies should be put in place to facilitate that, particularly in this country, because we're talking about this year, we're talking about the outlook, 2025 outlook.
Are you saying, I'm asking in the
well,
context of media development?
Media, yes.
Okay, yeah, like this suggestion I just put in place, right? Nothing stops anyone to, you know, as a matter of fact, even if they don't do it, I'm going to do that because there's our center, we just registered in Nigeria. Okay. So we'll be effective in this 2025. It's called Media Education Development Initiative, right? So one of the things we want to do is to canvass for a bill asking all these tech companies to support media development in Nigeria. So if we're able to succeed in that, that's a major push, right? So whatever comes out of it, even if it's $1 million you guys are able to get here, that's they give to another station, you know, something like that. That's huge, okay? So, and even to create that awareness. So the policy steps that they have to take will be in this direction. And I've also discovered that somehow media freedom is not as I expected it to be,
okay,
in a democratic setting. So they have to do that, because freedom is everything. Because when there is an opaque behavior, it can also impair development. All right? All these issue about local government autonomy and all that, from what I'm gathering, it looks like it's a ruse, even though the Supreme Court has given its final say on that. They don't need any other legislation about it, because that's a law, because there's what we call court-made laws, right? So that decision should be binding every part of the country. But what I understand, the governors are still holding these guys, you know, they are not effective. Like this road here should be, because, what I don't even understand is that why would states want to accumulate so much responsibilities when they can divest some of these things, allow local governments to do their jobs? There are lots of roads local governments could do if they have the resources. But for the state to be accumulating, I don't get it. Other than just the sheer arrogance of power, or they just want to accumulate, to dictate who becomes the chairman and all. Chairman should be independent. An election should be if an election is conducted, whoever wins should win. The people should decide who should be their governor or who should be their chairman. But this idea of where they just write a list and circulate and all that and impact is not healthy. So if you ask me, what I also think people should also emphasize would be on autonomy, freedom, and some measure of openness. Because a system where somehow people live in darkness will not necessarily be helpful.
Okay.
That's what I think.
Right.
So that would be my prescription. Allow freedom to reign. Okay? Because freedom has a collateral effect on economic development. That's when we talk about free market economy, for example, right? If the economy is regulated, that's not healthy. It will really stagnate and stifle development in many areas. Okay, so even in universities themselves, I hosted one of the prominent professors, Professor Romano Siegudi, the other day, and we're talking about corruption in the education system. There's this time they say they are sorting people or something, So, and they do it in secrecy, all right? And nobody is reporting about that, because if you did that, maybe someone will come after you, So, some of the government officials as well can also be exposed when they are doing some of the things that they want to, hide. So, because the media is all about, government is all about keeping secret, the media is all about keeping things open. So, that's the relationship we have with the government. So, they want to keep something secret. You have to go and unearth those things and uncover it. And they get angry, and the people will support you.
Right, that idea is good. But then again, as the founding president of Center for Media and Peace Initiative, are there other, ideas, are there other roles you're playing related to Nigerians in diaspora?
Yes, I do. Quite frankly, over the years, we've had, because there's a book I wrote, it's called Media and Diaspora Strategies, Issues in Governance and Participation.
Yes, yes.
So the point there is that when people are outside, they are freer to express themselves, knowing that there won't be any repercussions. There are a couple of things I can write in New York. Perhaps you'll be afraid to write when you're here because you'll be afraid of X, Y, and Z. As a matter of fact, sometime in November, in September, that was when we had the United Nations General Assembly, UNGA. So an official of the State Department reached out to me and wanted to ask me whether we could write X, Y, and Z for Then we're looking at the U.S. Africa Leaders Summit, the second one held by Biden, and some promises and resources given to some heads of state, and nobody's talking about that. So the question was, how can we get to know the situation of things with all these African heads of states? So if that's the problem with this world, if the U.S. supports Africa with their own magnanimity, it's not necessarily, we can't blame them if our own people now do not implement what it's very now the point I'm making is that they will now be looking for some of us to unearth some of those things, to expose those things, Then some people, they reached out here, I said no, they'll kill them. So I told them that in Nigeria most media establishments are free. There are some other African countries that they can't just say a lot of things. There's one lady from Cameroon, she just ran. I said, no, I don't want to get involved in. They will, in fact, because she is there, but they say they will go to her family and, deal with family members. Something we don't do in Nigeria. So, what I've also done is, referring to your question, if you follow the record, I try to bring some prominent Nigerians to the U.S. to host them to a forum where even other non-Nigerians, white people also ask them questions. Not just Nigerians, even other African leaders. We've hosted, what's his name? 2021, I hosted Malami. That was the Attorney General of Nigeria then. He was in New York at my invitation, and, some people were asking questions about corruption in Nigeria, So he was there. There's no, he has to answer them, right? We hosted, I hosted Humphrey Moose at the peak of election sometime. The Humphrey Moose was the guy who did the
elections?
June 12 election.
1993.
So you provide a lot of solutions but then some about 16 African countries were going to have election that year. So that was that. I hosted the guy from Zambia. Even Ekwo was one of our guests in 2017. All right? He came with all these congressmen, including this Ababio. He was in the team. So we do host some of this, even the Attorney General of Uganda. That one was also another major thing that sparked a lot of control, because somehow some of the Ugandan people in the US, they don't like the government of Museveni. But that's not my business. My business is to put them on the spot and ask them questions. So those are the kind of things we do to enhance governance in Africa. So even though, yes, I'm Nigerian, but if you check the data, actually we've had more Nigerians, obviously, but you can understand the reason. So, but there are other African countries we've also hosted, even from Kenya as well. And we also do have affiliation with some institutions in Rwanda, KCA University in Kenya, Media Institute of South Africa, even in Namibia, yes. And even when I went to address the Pan-African Parliament on media strategies for development and peace, it was on the basis of this that they invited me to. I spoke to the entire Parliament of African people, from different African countries in Midrand, South Africa. So these are some little efforts we are making to position, Africa. Because let me tell you the rationale behind CMPI. Having practiced journalism for many years, I realized that, if you go to journalism 101 will teach you that when a dog bites a man, it's no news, right? When a man bites a dog, that's the news. Even our own New York Times will tell you something like, if it bleeds, it leads, right? So journalism is fixated around conflict, around oddities and all that, unusual things. So wars and all that. And in the US, a lot of reporters who want to be proud to say I'm a war correspondent. But nobody says I'm a peace correspondent.
or conflict resolution correspondent.
Thank you. So this is some of my guys, when we set up, we thought about this. And media or journalism can be a force for good. Right? So when they say the pen is mightier than the sword, that's serious, right? Because you can use this platform to cause conflict in this country. If you also studied media and society issues have you heard about Orson Welles' Invasion from Mars? So at the beginning stages of media effects theories, where people thought that the syringe bullet effect or bullet effect theories and all that. So we've come to realize that at the end of the day, we can also help to bring people together. All right. So, in other, how do we emphasize peace rather than the drama of conflict? So that's the whole idea. And every time you look at when I went to school in the 80s, there was this New World Information Order that came around that time. All the information flow was going from the north to the south. They don't know anything about us, and everything they talk about is, terrible things. I will never, just recently, when one day I came in, I saw Rachel Madon on television and talking about, it says, wonder shall never end in Nigeria. And I said, and what happened? They said a snake swallowed money. And I said, wow. So you see, those are the kind of stories they like. Even when I talk to a lot of our colleagues around Africa, I tell them that they are also contributing to those negative portrayal of Africa in the West. Because when you also emphasize all those negative things, that's the things they want to pick. But they don't have correspondence anymore around. So any negative story you guys use here is the one they would like to, because that's what will make the news over there. That's why we set up this, to counter those narratives. Yes.
In a way, you mentioned your work, your book. Your work, emphasizes the influence of media on public perception and policies. But in 2014, you critiqued the U.S. media's limited coverage, of the U.S. Africa Leaders Summit, highlighting a missed opportunity to expand narrative. But right now, from 2014 to 2025, has the narrative changed?
Unfortunately, no. It has not. However, what is happening really right now is the fragmentation of the media system. Because sometimes, the fact they're able to tell your own story. Okay, like if not because of all these social media, all these fragmentation, somebody like Donald Trump wouldn't have become president. So he was able to break through, because those days, even Obama wouldn't have even become president. Because back in the day, the three networks would decide who would become president. They black out every other, they'll just, but today, things have changed. So why I'm saying that is that somehow, that fragmentation may have benefited in enabling us to tell our own stories. Because the truth about the matter is that nobody can tell your story better than yourself. It's up to today, it still annoys me. Like, that's why we're prominent in the US in terms of Africa. Because the people who tell African stories, there's what they call Corporate Council for Africa. Go and check it. All of them white people. And I was against that. When I told them in Washington, I went to school where you have to use lantern. Have you ever experienced it? They said no. So I'm the one who tell you how difficult it is to live in Africa. Just stay there postulating, quoting some books and all that. But I have lived it.
Yeah.
And our government here also makes that mistake of using those people to advance our cause over there.
Right.
Leaving some people, some Nigerians who are credible to tell the story more effectively. Whatever, we can talk about the reason why they emphasize those, but the truth is that it's not happening. So going back to what they're saying, the narrative has not changed, regrettably.
So how can the Nigerian, both Nigerian and international media, come together and work more effectively to expand narrative about Nigerians right now in diaspora?
There's what's that concept? There's a concept whereby I'll quickly remember it now, whereby you can syndicate a story, right? Pitch a story to the New York Times. Maybe not even 250 words, right? And they think it's a good story, they can invite you to now do the story. So I want reporters to emphasize that. Then Nigerians abroad can also enhance public perception by good conduct. I'm sorry to tell you that most times there are a lot of people who know Nigerians for the wrong things. So when they encounter people like me, they say, you're not beautiful. And even though they think they'll give me a compliment, I feel angry about it. I was in Poland. I had a session, I was in the same call with John O'Sullivan, who was the press secretary of Margaret Thatcher. So, yes, I was the only black person there, to be honest. And when he came to me, I said, oh, he spoke so well, this and that. He said, where is that accent from? I said, I'm originally from Nigeria. I said, well, I came as an American, obviously. So He said, oh, those people do something. They know he put under it. I said, excuse me. He said,
That's sad, really.
So I said, no. I said, there's no, I told him that they are killing people. There's no security there. I said, no, it's not true. It's what you read in the news, in the media. That I'm actually traveling from here to Nigeria. Nothing's going to happen to me. You understand? So that's a common thing. There are a lot of people you enter, they see you as a crook. It pleased my heart. So what I think is that our people should also be conscious of that and become Nigeria's ambassadors across the globe.
Yeah, but do you think the narrative is skewed against Nigerians? Because, I mean, these things happen every now and then. Nigerians are not the only ones that carry drugs. Nigerians are not the only ones that do crimes. I mean, we see this over and over again, and sometimes because it's a Nigerian, it's blown
All
over
the world, yeah.
You know. Even in fact, an example is South Africa. South African reports, their own report does not show that Nigerians are the ones doing drugs or doing crimes. But when you ask around, you hear these sentiments that Nigerians are the ones doing drugs, are the ones doing crime, they are taking their women, and it's just so feels so bad. Do you think the media in itself, international media, is skewed against Nigeria?
You're absolutely right, your analysis. But let me tell you something. You see the way America is perceived around the world. Like when you hear about anti-Americanism, right? Anti-American sentiments, right? Because America is a dominant player in the world. The same way Nigeria is perceived in Africa, because we're the big stuff, right? There are even some little African countries that they want to claim they're Nigerians. Either for good or for bad. I've met one Senegalese guy who told me, when he got to know, I said, I want to be a Nigerian.
Really?
Seriously. So, you see, that's the thing. We don't even know what we have. Even there are a lot of people, even some Caribbeans, especially with all this movie stuff, they know all the names, all the good things. But the unfortunate thing is, that narrative has been there, and it's been difficult to really, because there don't seem to be a concerted effort to change that narrative. All right. Even this idea of corruption is not a Nigerian language. There are a lot of Americans who are also corrupt. Do you know that? The same thing will happen. There's a terrorist attempt, or somebody does whatever. If the person is a Muslim, it gains greater headline than when a person is not.
True.
Especially if the person comes from all this Muslim world and all that, right? But the same act done by an American is not even the same. So that's the perception. So it's unfortunate that these things are the way you've described it. I agree, Nigerians are not the only fraudulent people. But for God's sake, if you just, okay, let me give you another example. When you're driving, if the police stops you, you just pull down my listen. They say you pull it and listen to them. You move on. But the typical black American will refuse to, and that's how they start. So why do you have to do that? Further cementing that narrative that you are violent and all that. So it stops you, listen and answer the questions and go. So some of them will not answer it because they say, I stopped me because I'm a black person. That's not the truth. What I'm trying to say is, because you already know, like me now, myself, I know that this is the challenge. So I comport myself in the highest tradition anybody can expect. In fact, some of them will be, I've seen, I earn a lot of respect, right? So some say you're not behaving, but like I said, it's not a compliment for that. I just know, So they respect you when they know you have, especially when they know you have something upstairs, So they do respect you. But what I'm saying is that everyone should be conscious of that you're a target. Don't play into their hands by doing all those things that will trigger all those things you're talking about. So that's just the only way I can look at it, because at the end of the day, we're all ambassadors. We should become ambassadors of this country, so that people will, like I just told you the day I addressed African Parliament, and everyone was saying, they say success has many fathers. Then this lady from Port Harcourt, Congress, oh, that's our son. Because my name revealed me, something like that. So if I did poorly, they would deny me.
I mean, that's human for you.
So, we should just comport ourselves, knowing where you're coming from. But again, how many of them are also informed that all those narratives that exist? Because all of us, we share similar understanding. That's why I know this is a challenge. Some of them will just be going there that, I'm here to survive and I can do stuff. So why do you have to go and steal? Okay, like you have a drug in your body and you come into the airport and you think you'll not be caught or something. So why I don't know. Maybe they say they want to survive, but it's something that should be even starting from our families. Yeah, to educate our young men and women that there are better virtues. And unfortunately, like in this country, it looks like things have become so bad that people who are crazy are the ones that are recognized. Quite frankly, you just have to survive. You just have to do whatever you have to do to make it. Nobody cares where you're coming from. How did you make this money? All those kind of stuff. Right. So that he's a smart guy. They say he's hustling. What's me hustling? You don't have an address, yeah, bro.
Right.
So
Professor, thank you so much.
Thank you
really,
for your
truly
time.
appreciate
Really.
you for your insight today.
Thank you
It's
so
been one
much.
very revealing, insightful conversation we've had this morning. Truly appreciate it.
Thank
Thank
you so
you very
much.
much,
All right.
Professor.
Thank you so much.